Hello everybody, my name is Robin and welcome back to another video. We are officially less than a week away from the World Cup, so I thought, why not make a video doing my predictions of what will happen. Alright, we're going to be starting off with Group A here with Mexico, South Africa, South Korea, and the Czech Republic. I feel like this group is the easiest for any team to get out of. This was one of the weaker groups in the draw. However, I do think Mexico lucked out a little bit. They didn't get the Danes in their qualify with the European qualification spot. Otherwise, I thought Denmark would have easily have won this group. However, I'm going to go game by game, see how it is. Starting off with Mexico versus South Africa. I think it's going to be a simple 2-1 win to Mexico. Mexico are going to come in. They're going to open up the scoring. South Africa get a equalizer around the 40 to 50 minute mark. Mexico come out, get a late winner, 75th minute. Mexico claims all 3 points. Next up is Czech Republic versus South Korea. Now, I'm not super fancying South Korea in this tournament. I think they're a little bit on the weaker side of things. Czech Republic aren't great, but I think they're better. I'm going to go with a boring 1-0 win for the Czech Republic. Get the 3 points. On the second match day here in Group A is Czech Republic versus South Africa and Mexico, South Korea. Czech Republic versus South Africa, I think it's going to be more fun. I think South Africa's defense isn't really that good. Their offense is, yeah, it's okay. I think it'll be another 2-1 win for Czech Republic. I think South Africa is going to be a little bit fun. I think Czech Republic, unlike Mexico, where it's a little bit more even, I think Czech Republic are just a little bit better defensively. I think personally that Czech Republic are going to go up 2-0 early on in the first half. Boring second half, and then maybe 80th minute goal by South Africa. All right, Mexico versus South Korea. I think this is going to be where a lot of Mexico's ability is going to be tested. I think they're going to be tested. I think Mexico is a good but not great side. I think if this was 2014 Mexico, they would have easily gotten the 9 points. This was even 2018 Mexico. But Mexico over the last 6 years or so, I think they've kind of started going downhill a little bit. I think, yeah, they won the Gold Cup, but it's the Gold Cup. It's either Mexico or the United States. It's nothing special. Had a bad Copa America in 24. I think it'll be a draw, and it'll kind of wake Mexico up. They had a win. They'll have a fun but unconvincing win against South Africa, and this draw is kind of waking them up a little bit. So I think a 1-1 draw. South Korea are going to open the scoring late, and then Mexico are going to find some kind of equalizer, maybe a penalty in the 75th minute. And then match day 3, I do think Mexico are going to be a lot more energetic, a lot more convincing, and narrowly edge out a 2-1 win over the Czech Republic. I think they're going to come out blazing, scoring the first 25, 30 minutes. I think Czech Republic are going to come out, get an equalizer around the late in the first half, early in the second half, followed by a Mexican winner around the 80th minute or so. And I think Mexico will probably end up 7 points here in this group. And then South Africa, South Korea. I think they're both going to go out in the group stages. So I'm going to say a fun 2-2 draw. Not a boring second in the game. Both teams trying to win. South Africa trying to get 3 points. South Korea trying to get that 4 points. But I think it's just going to be, I think both teams are just about even. I know South Korea are a lot higher on the standings, but I think Africa is a little bit better of a continent when it comes to soccer right now. So I think a 2-all draw, a fun 2-all draw. I think it's going to be one of the most fun games of the whole group stages. And I think Mexico will win the group with 7 points. I think Czech Republic will have 6. They'll have already qualified in the last game. They won't play their best team. So 6 points. South Korea are out with 2, and South Africa will get that 1 point. And it'll be a whole load of. I think this is going to be one of the more fun groups of the tournament in terms of the play style. I think outside of Czech Republic versus South Korea and maybe Korea versus Mexico, I think there's not going to be a really boring game in this tournament. These are all kind of fun teams to watch. Alrighty, moving on to Group B with Canada, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Qatar, and Switzerland. I'm going to just say this outright. Switzerland is winning this group pretty comfortably. Had Italy been here, I think it would have been a more interesting group, but Switzerland is winning this, should win this group pretty comfortably. They're the best organized team. They have the most talent, and I don't see them really giving up too much in terms of goals. I don't think their defense is perfect, but I think considering how weak this group is, it's not. I think they'll give up goals, but it's not going to be like a 2-2 game. I don't think they're going to give up more than 1 a game. So let's start off with the Canada versus Bosnia game. Opening game for host number 2, Canada. I think it's going to be a very, very boring game. I think Bosnia's a little bit better in their starting 11. And I think Canada, they're coming off of a bunch of injuries right now. I know their striker, who I don't remember the name of right now, he had an injury. Alphonso Davies is probably their only world-class talent. I'm going to say a 1-0 win to Bosnia with a late goal. It's going to look like a 0-0 game the whole time. And Bosnia just wins at the very end, maybe like the 85th, 88th minute. Then we move on to Qatar versus Switzerland. Outside of Afif, I don't really know if Qatar have any kind of hope. I think Switzerland are going to go up 2-0 at halftime. Ashram Hafif is going to come in here, score a goal either at the start of the second half, and then Switzerland will score 2 more goals, 4-1. Switzerland get an easy win. Next up, Switzerland versus Bosnia. Again, I think it's going to be the inexperience of the Bosnians versus the experience and organization of the Swiss. I think Switzerland are going to win 2-0. I think it's going to be a normal 2-0 win for Switzerland. Nothing really shocking. Bosnia will put up a good fight. Nothing much they can do about that. Switzerland they have a better team. They have better depth, and they're far more organized. Historically, they're very well organized, do very well in tournaments. I can't even name to you right now when the last time they got grouped, because I think they've gone to the knockout stages of all of their last major tournaments. So 2-0 win. And then I think Canada versus Qatar is going to be the most. I think this is the one. I think this is one of the games Qatar could win if the stars were right. I think Afif is going to get another goal here, but I think it's going to end up 2-1 to Canada. I think because they're hosts, they lost the first game in unconvincing fashion. I think they're going to pull out a win here get the 3 points and just narrowly edge out Qatar. Moving on to match day 3, it is Switzerland versus Canada. I'm going to be honest, at this point, Switzerland only need a point to win the group. Canada need points to go through. I think Switzerland are going to play a slightly weaker team. They might not, you might have Xhaka on the team. You might have a couple of those players. But I think they're just going to play for a draw. I think a 1-1 draw is going to be realistic here. Canada are going to be fighting for it, but they're just not going to be good enough against the Swiss. Switzerland not really caring either way. They've already won the group. So I think a 1-1 draw, Switzerland with 7 points, Canada managing to get that 4 points. That'll be a great thing for both sides. I think that's what I'm going to go with. I think it's going to be a 1-1 draw. Canada will go through, I think. Next up, the last game of this group is Bosnia versus Qatar. And I think Bosnia are going to win that 2-0. I think they're going to come in mad about the Switzerland game. They're going to play a lot more defensively. And they're going to come out swinging. Probably play hot arm ball in the last half hour. And they're going to get their second place. And that puts Switzerland at the top of the group with 7 points. That puts Bosnia in second place with 6. And that puts Canada in third place as one of the better third place teams with 4 points. And Qatar, 0 points. But I think it's going to be a fun 0 points. It's not going to be like when they hosted. Alrighty, Group C, which in my opinion is one of the most unpredictably fun groups in the tournament. If the last 2 groups were kind of weaker teams where you really could see anybody going through, I think Haiti's one of the 2 or 3 worst teams in this tournament. I don't think they have a chance. I do think that it's going to be fun for them. They should enjoy every loss they take. But I think they're going to finish bottom. This group features Brazil, Morocco, and Scotland. All 3 are going to beat Haiti. It's not like Qatar where I could see them pulling out a win against somebody. I don't see that here. I don't think there's any team weak enough to really lose to Haiti. So let's get into the predictions on this one. Brazil versus Morocco to start the group. I think this is going to be a 1-1 draw. I know Morocco are the kings of Africa right now. Senegal are better. And Brazil, probably the third best team in South America right now, behind Argentina and Ecuador. But I'm going to see a 1-1 draw. I think Brazil have more talent, but I don't know what it is with it, but they haven't been great since really 2002, 2014 maybe. But even then, that loss to Germany was the moment where it's like, yeah, it's not a great team. I think this team is more talented than teams past, but it's just something. Something. They finished pretty poorly in qualifying. I'm going to go with a 1-1 draw here. I think Morocco are going to open the scoring, play very defensively. They're a great defensive team and easily top 2 in Africa. They're coming in with that World Cup semifinal from 4 years ago. Brazil haven't made a semifinal for 12 years now. I'm going to stick with a 1-1 draw. And I think it's going to be a late minute, maybe Rafinha, Vinicius Jr., maybe Endrick. I think one of them are probably going to score in the last dying minutes of the game to create a draw. Then we got Haiti versus Scotland. This, I think, I don't know how controversial this is. I think Scotland are going to play their minds out for this game because I think Scotland are going to try to get draws in the next two games and win on goal difference. I think a 6-0 win for Scotland. And that's nothing against Haiti. I think they're going to be very fun to watch. I know they have a couple of uh, what was it, French players, I think. But yeah, Scotland, I think they're better, and I think they're trying to realistically try to get some goal difference between them. So that way, in case they get tied on points, they can win on goal difference. 6-0 over Haiti. I think that's going to be pretty reasonable. Uh, yeah, like 4-0, 6-0. I think it's going to be something close to that. Next up is Scotland versus Morocco. I think it's going to be a 0-0 draw. I think Scotland's offense is going to do terribly. They're wishy-washy. I know Scott McTominay, but I think they're not going to be able to break down this really, really good defense, like probably top 5 in the world right now in Morocco. And then I think Morocco are not quite as offensively gifted as Scotland are. So I think even though it's bad, I could see Morocco winning this game. I really could. But I'm going to go with a narrow, with a very boring 0-0 draw, putting Morocco at 2 points, Scotland at 4, I think it is. Yeah, 4. And then Brazil versus Haiti, I think it's going to be a 4-1 win for Brazil. I think they're going to come out swinging, score 2 or 3 goals in the first half, score a goal early on in the second, score a goal or 2 early in the second half. Haiti are going to come back, score in the dying minutes of the game. Haitians are going to be celebrating. It's going to be a fun time over there. But yeah, 4-1. And then Scotland versus Brazil. I don't know. I don't trust this Brazilian team as much in years past. I'm gonna say a 1-1 draw. I'm gonna say 1-1. Mostly because I think Brazil are less convincing than in years past. And then Morocco versus Haiti. I think a 2-0 win. You know, Haiti's not going to break down that Moroccan defense. And I think Morocco are going to need points at this point in the tournament. And with that, that puts the point total at Scotland, Brazil, and Morocco, all on 5 points. I think Scotland are going to win on goal difference. That, I think, is what's going to happen. And followed by Brazil, followed with Morocco being one of the better third-place teams, and Haiti being eliminated. Moving on to Group D now, containing the final hosts, the US, containing Paraguay, Australia, and Turkey. This group, I think, is the least predictable out of anybody because I could see anybody winning the group. I could see anybody coming dead last in the group. I kind of debated this one. This is the one I'm the least. I'm the least confident about this one. I think I'm just gonna go game by game. Let's see. Game 1, USA versus Paraguay. I think a 2-1 win over the US. I'm not too familiar with Paraguay. I know they're pretty good. I mean, they're South American. They're usually pretty good. But I'm not 100% sure. And I think US, they're going to be the home team. They have a little higher expectation. And I think this is one of the best US teams of all time. probably going to go 2-1 to the U.S. Turkey versus Australia. Turkey plays a very harambal style of play. Turkey is a better team, but they always underperform in tournaments for some reason. I think Turkey's going to squeak out a 1-0 win. I also think Turkey are kind of 1-0 merchants, really. They're not a very high scoring team, and I don't think, unlike Group A, I don't think this is going to be as fun of a group. I think it's going to be a lot more boring defensive style of plays. But yeah, so far, US and Turkey both on 3 points. Next are USA versus Turkey, USA versus Australia, and Turkey versus Paraguay. 2-1 all draws. Again, it's like it's a toss-up as who I think is going to win any of these games. I'm just going to go with 1-1 around the board. And then match day 3, Turkey versus USA. Again, I think it's going to be a 1-1. I think US has a really talented team. Turkey has a better team, but have that sense of underperforming. Turkey and USA, 5 points each. And then Paraguay, Australia, I'm going to say a 2-2 draw. I could see a 2-1 win for Paraguay. Could see a 2-1 win for Australia. I'm just going to go with a draw. I don't really see it. I think this is going to be one of the least fun groups to watch in the whole tournament. I think it is going to be, each game is going to be boring. Each game is going to be harambal. I think the USA is the most fun team out of all of them, but it's going to be a lot of, I think, not boring per se, but least fun. And I think Turkey's going to win with 5 points. They're going to win with either goal difference or with goals scored, I think. And then I think US are coming second, again with 5 points. And then Paraguay third, Australia fourth, each on 2 points. I'm least confident in that prediction, but Group E now I think goes into one of the most interesting groups, purely based off of the way it's structured. Germany, Curacao, Ivory Coast, and Ecuador. I think Ecuador is easily the second best in this group, but I struggle to say they're going to come second. All right, Germany versus Curacao. I think Germany are going to come in swinging, slap them around. The ruthless nature that the Germans have, I think it's going to be an either 6-0 or 8-0 win. I think it's going to be crazy amount of goals. I think this will going to be the highest scoring game of the tournament. Ivory Coast, Ecuador, I think a 1-all draw. I think Ecuador is really good defensively. Don't know if there's a lot of goals. Ivory Coast, I think there's more goals in Ivory Coast. But I don't rank that defense as much. Ecuador, they obviously have Valencia. They have who's that? They have that one defensive player, but I'm blanking on his name. I'll put it up on the screen right here when I find it out. But yeah, I think it'll be a 1-all draw. Could be a 0-0 draw. I think Ecuador, like Morocco, are going to be one of those really good defensive teams. I think they're coming in. What was it, like top 5, top 10 defense of the tournament? I mean, they made Argentina sweat in qualifying. So, game 2, Germany versus Ivory Coast. I think this is going to be the most fun game of the tournament. I think it'll be Germany 3, Ivory Coast 2. You know, Germany are clearly the best team in this group, but I don't think Ivory Coast or Ecuador are slouches. Curacao, I think, is the worst team in the tournament. I think they are pretty bad. I don't even think I struggle to say that they're even going to score in this tournament. Ecuador versus Curacao. This is, I think, where that draw is going to hinder Ecuador, because I think they're going to do a 2-0 win over Curacao. And I think that'll hurt them due to goal difference with Ivory Coast. Next up is Curacao, Ivory Coast. And I think it'll be a 4-1 win for Ivory Coast. I think Curacao will score will score at some point in the game, maybe through a penalty or something, or a really good cross or something. I think they will have nothing to lose at this point and squeak out a goal. And I think if I'm Curacao, I'm happy with that. And then Germany, Ecuador, boring defensive game. Germany win 1-0. And with that, I think Germany win with all 9 points. And in second is Ivory Coast due to goal difference on 4. And Ecuador, again, I think that draw is going to hurt them. 4 points, one of the better third place teams, but that goal difference is what's going to hurt them. All right, Group F. One of my favorite groups in the tournament. I think this is the most talented group in terms of the teams here. There's a group with, I think, stronger teams in it. I'll get to that later. But I think across the board, none of these teams, I think, obviously a team has to go out. But I think all of these teams have a really good shot at going into the next round. Obviously, Netherlands, Japan, Sweden, and Tunisia. Game 1, Netherlands versus Japan. I'm going to go with a slight upset. 2-1 win for Japan. Netherlands are a more talented team, yes, but I'm not sure if I trust Ronald Koeman as the manager. I think I could see this going either way or even a draw. And I know Japan have a couple of injuries right now. I'm still going to go with Japan on this one. I just think it's their time. And I think out of every Asian team, Japan is going to be one of the few that actually make it out of the group stages. Sweden versus Tunisia. I'm going to go 2-1 win for Sweden. I could see Tunisia getting a draw here. I could see them possibly getting a win against Sweden. Our defense is not great. But I think that strong attack, I think it's just going to be a 2-1 win somehow. And it's just going to be I think it's going to be an exciting game. Netherlands versus Sweden. I'm actually going to that game. Can't wait. But I think it's going to be a boring 0-0 draw. I'm going to say a exciting 2-2 draw, actually. I think it's going to be Netherlands are going to come out, score a goal. Sweden are going to equalize. Sweden are then going to bat in a goal early in the second half with the Netherlands getting a late equalizer, 2-2. Next, Tunisia versus Japan. I think Japan are going to be hungry and aggressive in this game. 3-0 win for Japan. And I think they'll push to win the group. Yeah, yeah, 2-0 or 3-0 win, I think is going to be what happens. Match day 3, Netherlands versus Tunisia. I'm going to go with a 2-1 win versus for the Netherlands. Netherlands are, I think, are going to go through. Yeah, they're the they're the most talented team on the in this group, but I think I think it's just going to be one of those group stages where they just where a strong team just struggles for some reason. I think that's going to be this group because I think every other pot one team has had a fairly straightforward group, fairly easy to see them going through top two. Netherlands, I don't see that. I think if any first pot team could go out, I think it could be the Netherlands, and that's not because of the Netherlands is bad. I think number one, I don't think they have a great manager in Ronald Koeman. I mean, yeah, Sweden have Graham Potter, but I think him playing in the Swedish system, I think he gets the Swedish mentality a little bit. But also number two, I think this group is the most difficult all around the board. So I could see a team slipping out of it. I could see the Netherlands slipping out of it and somehow even maybe a draw and they go out. So I'm going to say a 2-1 win for the Netherlands and a slightly unconvincing one. I'll say Tunisia might be the better looking team, but just the sheer talent is what wins. And then Sweden versus Japan, I'm going to go with another 2-2 draw. Sweden going to do the same thing and give up on that defense. That puts this group as Japan in first place with 7 points, Sweden in second with 5, the Dutch in third with 4, and I think they're going to go through as one of the best third place teams. And then Tunisia with 0. However, I think it's going to be a very convincing, very unconvincing 0 points. I think it's going to be basically they're just not as talented as the other teams. And I could see a world where Tunisia is easily second in the group, top of the group somehow. And just off of the fact that they're a very organized team, they're very good. They're one of those sneaky good African teams. Moving on to Group G now with Belgium, Egypt, Iran, and New Zealand. I think this group is going to be one of the more interesting groups in terms of like who's going through. However, not a whole lot of strong teams. I mean, yeah, Belgium, but Iran, Egypt, maybe if the cards are right, they win a knockout game. New Zealand again, they're going out unless they get somehow like Curacao or Haiti in the groups. So, so yeah, match day 1, Belgium versus Egypt. I think it's going to be a simple 2-0 win to Belgium. Nothing really crazy, nothing really shocking. Egypt, yeah, they have Mohamed Salah, but he's not the same as back in 2018 or 2020s or in the early 2020s, 2021, 2022, or even like 2 seasons ago. And then Iran versus New Zealand, Tim Payne, Chris Wood, and that Iranian side. I think it'll be a 1-all draw, shocking upset for Iran, and I think New Zealand will be happy to take that point. Going into match day 2, Belgium versus Iran, I think this is going to be a little bit more difficult for Belgium just because I think Iran are a little bit better. But I still think 2-1 to Belgium should be somewhat simple again. Probably going to go up 2-0. Iran are going to score a goal late in the game. And I think that's going to be that. Egypt or New Zealand versus Egypt, however, I think that's going to be 2-1 win for Egypt again. I think New Zealand is one of the weaker sides of this tournament. They're not necessarily bad. They're very great defensively. They're very organized, very structured. But let's be honest, they're not very great. Egypt, they have a little bit of pedigree at the World Cup, and this will be their first ever World Cup win. So, congratulations, Egypt. You get your first 3 points at the World Cup. Now, Iran versus Egypt. Iran desperately needing points to go through. Egypt at this, they're on 0 points at this. No, they're on 1 point at this point in the tournament. Egypt on 3 points. I'm going to say a slight 1-0 win for Iran, just because I think they're a little bit better as a team. But yeah, I think it's going to be a pretty boring 1-0. And I think Egypt will go out as like the 9th best third place team. And then New Zealand versus Belgium, I think it's 3-0 win for Belgium, 3-0, 5-0. At that point, it's just who cares. And I think the way it's going to go is Belgium top the group with 9 points, Iran 4 points, Egypt 3, and they go out sadly in the group stages. And then New Zealand, they get 1 point. Group H, however, has a lot more fun teams in it. Still has that Group G problem where it's just not quite as strong. It's like really top heavy. Spain, Cape Verde, Saudi Arabia, and Uruguay. Spain is really the only contending team. They're one of the top 5 teams in the tournament. Uruguay, no longer that same Uruguay. You don't have Luis Suarez. You don't have Cavani. You don't have Diego Godin. You don't have Diego Forlan anymore. Well, Forlan's been gone for a while, but you don't have Muslera. It's not really a strong Uruguay. I know they're not happy with their manager at the moment. A lot of infighting. Cape Verde, never been to a World Cup before. Small country. Decent African side. And then Saudi Arabia, I think there's a weak Saudi Arabia. It's not like 4 years ago where they beat Argentina. So it's going to be I struggle to say it that there's going to be any great upset here. And I think match day 1 is going to prove that. I think Spain, Cape Verde, I think Spain are going to win 5-2 because I don't trust Spain's defense as much. Their midfield, their attack, probably the best in the whole tournament. I think Portugal's midfield is the only one that contests with them. I think the French attack is the only one that contests with the attack of Spain. And maybe Norway's attack. Yeah. But I think Spain are going to regret having Unai Simon as their starting goalkeeper instead of David Raya. So I think they're going to give up a couple goals, but it's going to be meaningless in this game. And I think Cape Verde are a strong enough team to score a goal or two against Spain. I think there's going to be goal city in this group. I think there's going to be probably the highest scoring group out of everyone because I don't think there's a great defense out of the side. I mean, Spain's defense is good, but I'd say that's their weakness. Game 2, Saudi Arabia, Uruguay. I think it's going to be a 2-1 win for Uruguay. Could see this being a draw, but I think Uruguay are still good enough to get that win. It's the World Cup. They're not going to be in any kind of protesting or anything like that. It's not going to be like France 2010, I don't think, at this World Cup. So I think 2-1 to Uruguay. Makes sense. Match day 2, Spain versus Saudi Arabia. I think, again, it's going to be a 4-1 win for Spain. I think Spain are just too good, even though I'm pretty sure Lamine Yamal is going to miss the first 2 games, if I remember correctly. Even then, I think Spain still have the talent, in the midfield. I think it's going to be a 4-1 win. Again, I don't rank that like Cucurella, Huijsen. I think they can give up a couple of goals. I think they're going to struggle to keep a clean sheet, and that's going to. But I don't think this group is strong enough to really challenge them in that way. Uruguay versus Cape Verde. I think, again, it's going to be a 3-1 win for Uruguay. Pretty simple, standard win. Do I want? Yeah, I think if Uruguay was going to lose to any of the 2 weaker teams, it would be Cape Verde, because I think Cape Verde is coming in with that unpredictability, with that lack of World Cup experience. I do think it is going to be a 3-1 win. And then on the final match day, Cape Verde and Saudi Arabia. You know what? Screw it. A 3-3 draw. Yeah. Because I don't think either of these teams are going to be very fun to watch in the knockouts. So a 3-3 draw, I think that would be really fun. Probably, again, one of the more fun games of the tournament. And then Uruguay versus Spain, 4-2 to Spain. I think Uruguay have the talent to score goals against Spain. I think Spain are still a lot better, because Uruguay, this is a weak Uruguay side. Not a lot of positive things, not a lot of positivity in Uruguay. I know a lot of even Uruguayan fans are a little bit negative, but they should easily come second in this group. They got lucky with this draw. But I think Spain win with 9 points. Uruguay with 6. Saudi Arabia in third with 1 point and goal difference, and Cape Verde matching them on points with 1, but having a worse goal difference because of that Spain game. And I think this is going to be one of the most entertaining for neutrals in terms of goals of the entire tournament. Group I, featuring France, Senegal, Iraq, and Norway. I think this has the highest caliber of teams. However, unlike Group F, I think Iraq really pulls them down. Not to say Iraq is terrible. They're not on the level of like a Curaçao or a Haiti or a New Zealand. But I think they're in that, like, but I don't think they're quite as strong as like a Tunisia. Going into match day 1, France versus Senegal, I think it's going to be a 2-0 win for France. And I just think France are just too good. I think they're not going to lose unless it's a big, strong, like a strong team. So I think a 2-0 win to start the World Cup. I know they lost to the Ivory Coast in a friendly, but it's a friendly. It doesn't really count for anything. So I'm not too worried about that. Iraq versus Norway. I think Erling Haaland scores a hat trick and a 3-0 win for Norway. I think their best chance of really getting through to the knockouts is slapping Iraq. Match day 2, France versus Iraq, 4-0 to France. I think the French defense is really good. The French offense is amazing. They will take advantage of any mistakes. But I don't think Iraq can do anything. I'm sorry. I feel bad for Iraq because they're in these three teams are better than any team in Group F or in any other group. So I kind of feel sorry for them. Yeah, 4-0 win. Sucks to say. Norway versus Senegal. I think Senegal are going to win 2-1. I think they're going to shut down Haaland in some way. Or Haaland is going to have a bad game. He's going to be off a little bit. And then Senegal, Koulibaly, they have Sadio Mane. They have a good team. Nicholas Jackson. I think Senegal are going to squeak out a 2-1 win here. Could be a 2-all draw if Haaland is playing pretty well. While match day 3, I'm looking right here. Norway versus France. I'm going to say a 2-all draw. I think Norway are going to come out swinging. France only need a draw to win the group. I think a 2-all draw, a very fun 2-all draw. And then Senegal versus Iraq. I think Senegal are going to beat Iraq 2-1. I think Iraq are going to finally get that goal in the World Cup. And it'll be a nice little, they'll concede 2 goals, score a goal late in the game. And that'll be a fun little memory when they go back on the plane home. And that puts this group at France with 7 points, topping the group. Senegal in second on 6. Norway on third with 4 points. And Iraq going out with a big fat 0. Again, no shame to Iraq. They got probably the unluckiest draw in the whole World Cup. Moving on to Group J here, featuring Argentina, Algeria, Austria, and Jordan. The group of alliteration. Game 1, Argentina versus Algeria. Argentina obviously are the World Cup champions. They're the holders. They're gonna be one of the favorites to go back to back. But we've seen in recent years that World Cup champions tend to not do too well in the next World Cup. I think Algeria is going to get a surprising 1-0 win and wake Argentina up right here. Argentina going to come in with that champion mentality. We're the winners. We're the best in the world. And lose 1-0 to Algeria. I think Algeria are good enough to push that. Austria versus Jordan, however, I think it'll be a 3-1 win for Austria. I think it's not going to necessarily be too difficult for them. And then Argentina versus Austria. I think Argentina are going to wake up. I know Austria have that Gegenpress thing, that high pressing that they do. But I think Argentina are too good. I think 1-0 to Argentina. Close, tough fought. And Argentina are finally going to wake up. The monsters are finally going to wake up for the World Cup. Jordan versus Algeria. I think it's going to be a 2-0 win for Algeria. I think Jordan are the weakest team in the group, one of the weaker teams in the tournament. Yeah. Yeah, I think Algeria are a good defensive side. Yeah, 2-0. Jordan versus Argentina. I think Argentina get a 3-0 win here. Pretty comfortable. And I think Argentina really are the best team in the group stages. I think they're one of the 5 best teams in the tournament. Algeria versus Austria. I'm going to go a 2-1 win for Austria. I think Austria is a little bit better than Algeria. And I also think that Austria are going to need it more. And that'll put this into a very interesting situation. Argentina, I think, will top the group on goal difference at 6 points. Algeria will come second on goal difference with, again, 6 points. And then Austria with 6 points coming in third. And obviously the best of the third place teams, but I think it's going to be the goal difference that kills them. And then Jordan coming in fourth with 0 points. Group K, second to last group here, featuring Portugal, DR Congo, Uzbekistan, and Colombia. I think this group is easily going to be who comes third. I think Portugal are going to come first. I think Colombia second. But it's going to be a can the third place team get out? Portugal versus DR Congo. I think Portugal are going to get a 1-0 win over DR Congo. Struggle to score, but completely control the game. DR Congo, they have like barely any threats in front of goal. And they're a very defensive side. So I think Portugal are going to find that goal somewhere, but it's going to be a tricky game. It's going to look difficult. Uzbekistan versus Colombia. I think Uzbekistan never been to the World Cup before. Colombia, someone who, they're a good team. They're a really good team. They came second in Copa America. But I think without James Rodriguez playing his best, they got Luis Diaz. They got a couple of other great players, but I think Colombia is going to pretty easily win this 3-1. Portugal versus Uzbekistan. I think it's going to be a thrashing 5-1 for Portugal. And Fabian Cannavaro is going to be sacked at the end of the tournament. Not much else to say. I think like a 5-1, 4-1 win for Portugal. Colombia versus DR Congo. I'm going to say it's going to be a shocking 1-1 win, 1-1 draw, I should say. I think Colombia will have a hard time against that defense, and I think they'll score, and I think DR Congo is going to come out with some kind of maybe like a penalty or something. They'll score, but yeah, it's going to be a close fought game against DR Congo in any sense. Colombia versus Portugal on the third match day, however, I think that's going to be one of the most exciting games. I think 2-2 draw. I think it'll be a 2-2 draw. I think Colombia has the talent to draw Portugal. I don't see them really beating this Portuguese side. Portugal, they're already through at this point. I think they're going to rest a bunch of their players. Maybe try to start Ronaldo, kind of get him some goals. Maybe they try some other players. But yeah, I think a 2-2 draw. I think this will be a really fun game to watch. While DR Congo versus Uzbekistan, I think it'll be a 1-0 win for DR Congo. I think they're going to try to push to get through the knockouts. and I think it'll be a a 1-0 win. Again, they struggle to score so often, and I think it'll be Portugal on first place in the group with 7 points. I think Colombia is going to come in second with 5. DR Congo in third with 4 points, and Uzbekistan, they're not going to have any points. Come dead last in the group. All right, moving on to the final group here, Group L, between England, Croatia, Ghana, and Panama. I think match day 1, England, Croatia, a 1-1 draw. I think Thomas Tuchel, I think he made a couple of mistakes. I think him not getting Harry Maguire in the squad, I think over Paul Stones. And then I think also not bringing Phil Foden. I think that one was a little bit of a mistake, even though I know Phil Foden hasn't been great past couple seasons. But I think I'm gonna have to see what this England squad does, because it might be like the 2018 World Cup, where it's not on paper it's not great, but it's cohesion based. Next up is Ghana versus Panama, and I don't think this Ghana team is all that great. I know they're hyped up as can be, but I think Panama is a little bit better. I'm gonna go 2-0 win. 2-0 win for Panama. England versus Ghana. I'm gonna go 2-1 win for England. I think Ghana's not a great side. England, even a bad England team is a pretty good team. I think realistically, this team should easily make the knockouts. Panama versus Croatia. I think, Croatia. I know it's mother's last dance. I know they got a couple of other players on there. I'm gonna say a 3-1 win for Croatia. I think Croatia are gonna push to get. I think Croatia are gonna push to get that first place on goal difference, just to make their lives easier in the knockouts. And then match day 3 now. Panama versus England. Panama trying to get through on the third place team. England, I think they're going to be struggling at this point a little bit. I'm going to say a 1-1 draw, shocking 1-1 draw. Panama's coming in with that revenge from 2018. They got slapped 6-0 by England. And I just think England are going to struggle here in the group stages a little bit. Croatia versus Ghana. I think Croatia are going to get a 3-0 win. They're going to try to win on goal difference. And I think try to get first in the group. Like I said earlier, yeah, 3-0. That puts the rankings at Croatia at number 1 with 7 points. England number 2 with 5 points. Panama number 3 with 4 points, and Ghana with 0 points in the group. But quickly before we move on the knockout rounds, the third place teams going through, I think, are going to be number 1, Austria with 6 points, Morocco with 5, Norway, Ecuador, Panama, the Netherlands, Canada, and DR Congo all with 4. I think Egypt, South Korea, Paraguay, and Saudi Arabia are going to be going home in the group stages. Tough luck. Sucks to watch that happen, but it's the way it is. Moving on to the round of 32, and according to the predictor that I used, that would mean that it would be Germany versus Morocco, France, Netherlands, Czech Republic, Bosnia, Japan, Brazil, Scotland versus Sweden, Ivory Coast versus Senegal, Mexico, Ecuador, Croatia versus Congo, Colombia versus England, Spain versus Algeria, Turkey versus Canada, Belgium facing off Norway, Argentina versus Uruguay, US versus Iran, Switzerland versus Austria, and Portugal versus Panama. And we're going to start off with Germany versus Morocco. I know Morocco, as of right now, are a higher rate than Germany, but I think Germany are coming in with that 2 World Cup failures. They're coming in with that champion experience. They're hoping to win it. So I think a 2-1 win for Germany. I think Germany are going to win. Morocco are going out. Next is France versus Netherlands. France are just too good. I think France are going to win 2-0 over the Netherlands. I think Ronald Koeman is not a great. I have been unconvinced by the Dutch. I think they made a semifinals of the Euros, but they did not look convincing against that Spanish side. Or was it the English? I forgot who they played. They didn't look convincing in the semifinal. I think they're going to go out to a really great team like France. And then Czech Republic versus Bosnia. I think it'll be a close game. Czech Republic, obviously Peter Schick. I think Bosnia, Edin Dzeko. I'm going to go Bosnia winning on penalties. Going to be a 1-1 draw, penalty shootout. Bosnia win. And then Japan versus Brazil. I'm going to say I have not been convinced by Brazil. I know that they have better talent than Japan, but I don't know. I say they're going to be I say Japan are going to win on penalties. Japan are finally going to win a knockout game. They're going to go to the last 16. No, I said it. I'm sticking with it. Japan won. Brazil won. Someone's going to miss on the Brazilian side for the penalty shootout. And it's going to be Brazil going home. Japan finally are going to go through, and I think they're going to be the dark horse of this tournament. Scotland versus Sverige versus Sweden. I think in this instance, Sweden are going through 2-1. Victor Gyökeres, Alexander Isak scoring. Scott McTominay getting a last-minute goal, not meaning anything. Sweden going through to the last 16. Ivory Coast, Senegal. As fun as I would like to say Ivory Coast, I think Senegal are the best team in Africa. And I think they're another dark horse in this tournament. I think Senegal 3, Ivory Coast 1. I think Morocco is the only African team that would be able to beat Senegal right now in a knockout game. Could I see Ivory Coast winning? Yeah, obviously anyone could win. However, I think Senegal 3, either 2-1 or 3-1 Senegal. I think they're just much better. And then Mexico versus Ecuador. Ooh. I'm going to go a surprising. Yeah, you know what? Just because I think Mexico are one of the hosts, I think they're going to come in hungry to get that knockout win that they've never had. The fifth game, I think they're going to win 1-0 over Ecuador. And then Croatia versus DR Congo, I think is going to be another 1-0. Two defensive games. I think Croatia are just much better than DR Congo, but DR Congo, if Portugal and Colombia aren't going to score a massive amount of goals against them, I don't think Croatia would be able to. DR Congo got to the knockouts. I think they would be happy as can be with that. Croatia through to the last 16. And then Colombia versus England. I think England are still good enough to win this game. I think they're going to shape up 2-1. I think England are going to nearly take out that win. Colombia are a little bit inconsistent, so yeah, I say 2-1 England. Spain versus Algeria. I think a 1-0 Spanish win. Because again, I know they have players like Riyad Mahrez, who was a great attacker, but not really anymore. I think a 1-0, 2-1 win. Spain going through. And then Turkey versus Canada. I am not convinced Canada could beat this Turkish side. I think of all the hosts, Canada are the weakest. I think they're gonna have I think they're gonna struggle the hardest. And I think it's just gonna be too much for them. Turkey's gonna win 1-0. And then Norway versus Belgium. Ooh, that's a fun one. Belgium, Norway. If this was 2018 Belgium, easy Belgium win. But this Norway has a great attack. Haaland, Ødegaard. I think Norway's going to win 2-1. I think Norway have enough to beat a Belgian side right now. Argentina versus Uruguay. Uruguay are not that great right now. Argentina are one of the best teams in the world. However, this is like a big rivalry. 1930 final. I think a 2-2 draw. Argentina barely win on penalties. I think that's how it's going to go. Because I think Argentina are clearly the better side, but that doesn't matter in these kinds of instances. You know, Spain, Portugal, Brazil, Argentina, England, Germany. These kind of rivalry games, you never really know what's going to happen with them. It's going to be tough. It's not going to be fun with them. So I think Argentina are going to win on penalties 2-2. They're going to win like 5-3 on penalties. And then the U.S. versus Iran. I take the U.S. 2-0 on that one. I think the U.S. are better than Iran. I think it's just that simple. Switzerland versus Austria. That's going to be a fun one. You know, both teams well organized. Both teams got strong players, pretty good depth. I'll take a 2-1 Swiss win on that. Yeah. 2-1 Switzerland win, go to the last 16. And then Portugal versus Panama. 3-1 win to Portugal. I think Panama is going to have over exerted themselves in the group stages, and they're just not going to have anything against this Portuguese side. You know, Portugal probably probably the third or fourth best team in the tournament. And that midfield is going to control everything. Bruno Fernandes, Bernardo Silva, Vitinha. They got the best left back in the world right now. 3-1 win. All right, heading into the round of 16 here, we got Germany versus France, Bosnia versus Japan, Sweden versus Senegal, Mexico, Croatia, England versus Spain, Turkey versus Norway, Argentina versus the US, and Switzerland versus Portugal. Let's start off with Germany versus France. It was a fun ride, Germans. I think France are winning 3-1 on that. I think the French are just much better. I don't think it's close. Yeah. I know Germany like Wirtz. But France, they got Olise, Mbappe, Hernandez, Cherky. It's like even I think even the French B team wins this game. Like Germany would have to be really, really having a good game in order to beat this French team. I think Germany are in a low period, and France are pretty much at their peak. All right, moving on, Bosnia versus Japan. Japan lucked out on this one. I think Bosnia, they're a good team. They're well organized. They're going to be happy to get to the last 16. But Japan are just much better. I think Japan are going through 2-1. Japan, they drew, if my predictions are correct, they drew Brazil in the round of 32 and they get Bosnia as a relief. I think it's going to be a much easier game for Japan. And I think that's going to be how it goes. Sweden versus Senegal. I want to be delusional and say we could beat Senegal. Would have been great revenge for 2002. However, Senegal are better than us. I think it's going to be 2-1. Gyökeres or Isak, maybe Elanga is going to get the last goal of their tournament, and it'll be a fun tournament to watch. I think it'll be sad. It'll be congratulations to Senegal, but I think that'll be the end of the road for us. Mexico versus Croatia now. I'm going to go with a 2-2 draw. Croatia win on penalties. Because I think Croatia are used to penalties in World Cups. They always have some black magic. Croatia 2, Mexico 2, penalties. And then England versus Spain. I think it's going to be the same thing. 2-2, Spain win on penalties. I think that'll be it for Thomas Tuchel's run as England manager. I think they'll go out in disappointing fashion in the World Cup again. Now moving on to Turkey versus Norway. Yeah, I think Norway got another easy draw. 2-0 win to Norway. Then Argentina versus the United States. It was fun while we were hosting. I think all three hosts go out in the last 16. Argentina win 2-1, but USA have but the U.S. will have a last minute chance saved. I think it'll be a dramatic last minute save from Manny Martinez. Portugal versus Switzerland. I think Portugal are going to win that 3-1 pretty convincingly. Moving on to the quarterfinals now. France versus Japan, Spain versus Norway, Senegal versus Croatia, and Argentina versus Portugal. Ooh. Let's start off with France versus Japan. It was a great run, Japan. Quarterfinalists, 2 knockout wins. I got France beating them. It'll be a fun run for them, but I don't think France are going to lose to Japan. Just don't think that's going to happen. Spain versus Norway. I'm tempted. Spain usually don't do well in World Cups, but I think Spain are going to beat Norway. I think it'll be a 2-1 win. Haaland is going to score. He's probably going to win the Golden Boot. And I think that'll be it for his World Cup. Senegal versus Croatia. Could be either side. I think Croatia are better, but I'm going to put Senegal beating Croatia 2-1 as the second African team to make the semifinal and the third non-European or South American side to make a semifinal. And then Argentina versus Portugal. Messi versus Ronaldo. Last dance. I'm going to go 2-2. Portugal narrowly winning on penalties. Now I know Argentina on paper. I think the Argentine defense is just a little bit weaker than Portugal's. I think also that midfield is just so much better for Portugal. I think it's going to be a close game. I think it's going to be a sad exit for Messi out of the World Cup, and I think it'll be Ronaldo's. I just think Portugal are really good at this point, and I think Portugal are moving a bit away from Ronaldo, so they're not relying on him as much. And I think Argentina are a little bit too reliant on Messi at the moment, where I think that's going to be the little bit of a difference where I think Portugal are going to be able to deal with Ronaldo being bad more than Messi struggling in any capacity. So I think that's why. But I think penalties, I think they're both very evenly matched. I think it's small margins at this point in the tournament. That leaves the semifinal as France versus Spain and Senegal versus Portugal. France versus Spain, I think, could go either way. I think France is going to win that 2-1. I just think France is too good. I think France-Spain is going to end 2-1 for France. And Spain are going to look to get that bronze medal. Senegal versus Portugal now. I think Senegal are lucky to be here. Portugal 2, Senegal 0. In the bronze medal match, I think bronze medal match, Spain versus Senegal. You have Spain, the European champions. Senegal, they won the final against Morocco in the AFCON final. I know they technically aren't AFCON champions anymore due to the legal battle, but you know what? This is a single game. I think Senegal are going to want it more. Senegal get that bronze medal and are the first non or sorry, the first African team to win a bronze medal at the World Cup. And they can go happy. They don't care about the AFCON anymore. They have a World Cup medal. And now the final. France versus Portugal. Who's going to take home the gold, baby? Um, I think the French are a much better team, but I think Portuguese midfield is a lot better than the French midfield. The attack, Portugal's weakness is the attack. Well, France, it's that midfield. I will say one thing I think is going to drive this game. France have had two finals recently before this. And I think also Portugal are coming in with the death of Diogo Jota and emotion. I think that's going to be a very big deal. And I think that's just going to push them that ever a little bit more. They make it to the final. They can't lose now. They're going to win for Jota. I think Portugal 2, France 1, Portugal narrowly winning the World Cup. And I think that'll be, I think that'll just be a great way to end it. You know, Portugal coming in with high expectations, winning the World Cup after the death of Diogo Jota. Ronaldo completes football or soccer, and that'll be a and I think that'll be a pretty fun World Cup. All right, let me know what you thought. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let me know down in the comments below. And also, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you all for watching, and goodbye.